Hey everyone, Tony D with, I guess you'd call it another hot take. Don't mean to be a downer talking about the virus all the time, but gotta talk about the virus. Sad to say. Come here, Joan. Show everybody your pretty face. Come here. Oh, why do you fight me? Here's Joan and her pretty face. Yes. Ugh. And her bad breath, though. So, today's video, one of today's video, we have a situation here that no one's addressed yet, but we've got three main contenders for the President of the United States at this point. Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, and Donald Trump. We also have the coronavirus, which is spreading pretty much like wildfire, as you would expect it to, when you factor in the highly contagious nature and the 2-week incubation period. Which means that if you go to one of these political rallies, you're likely to be infected. Now, Trump is a little less likely to be infected. And the other two guys, a little more so, because of the way they're campaigning right now. And we have to look at the possibility that one or more of these candidates could pass away before the election and the impact that that would cause. So the oldest in the field right now is Bernie Sanders. Now, Bernie is likely not to be the candidate for the Dems. And the reason is the same math that I've said before. 25% of the Democratic Party basically has embraced socialism or near socialism or democratic socialism, whatever you want to call it. They're on the extreme left. And it is extreme and it is radical. If you want to fight me on that, please, I invite your comments in the comments. But he is the oldest. So he would be the most likely, and he just had a heart attack. So he's got a compromised immune system and he's elderly. If he gets a coronavirus and there's a 40% to 70% chance he might, on top of the fact he is out there doing town halls, he's shaking hands, he's giving speeches, public event after public event after public event. Not only that, his people have to interact with a ton of people. And because of the contagious nature of this virus, it is extremely likely he could be infected on the road. Extremely. There's just no other way to do it. Unless he starts wearing a mask and gloves everywhere he goes, unless he isolates himself from the people. I mean, he's shaking hands. That's what politicians do. They shake hands, they kiss babies. Now, maybe he's not kissing babies right now, but he's shaking hands, or at least he was. And the virus is 2 weeks out. You have to think 2 weeks out. We just got hit in South Jersey. That's only the confirmed cases. 2 weeks ago, these 4 or 5 cases, whatever it is today, they got infected 2 weeks ago. They've been running around for 2 weeks with this virus, spreading it wherever they go. In another few days, there's going to be dozens of more cases. By the end of next week, there'll be hundreds of cases, if not thousands. Because slowly it will start to ramp up. Because they absolutely cannot quarantine people long enough. If you had started in China, maybe you had a shot at it. But now, no way. There's too many epicenters, too many people have it. So it is likely someone in the Bernie campaign will get the coronavirus. Then Bernie will get it. And Bernie could die. Now, fortunately for him, he has top-notch medical stuff. So 2 things could happen. The first thing is he gets top-notch medical treatment and he's fine, but it kills whatever momentum he had left and people blame, oh, well, this isn't fair, he got sick and blah, blah, blah. The Bernie bros, they kind of go bananas. They're going to go bananas anyway, but some of that craziness is mitigated by the fact that, the coronavirus is uncontrollable. The worst possible scenario is that he dies. Then the conspiracy theories will abound. People will say, no, they gave it to him on purpose, or they killed him, and they're using the virus as cover. And it would make the primary for the Democrats much uglier, much uglier. Then there's Joe Biden. Joe Biden is in a similar situation. He's going out, he's shaking hands, and I'll say this for Biden too. He's very old school. He's the sort of guy who would ignore the advice of doctors. I mean, the way he talks, the way he acts, he's going to totally ignore the advice of doctors. He's going to shake people's hands. He's going to smile. He's going to laugh. He's going to kiss babies. He's going to sniff people's hair. He's going to get in closer, as he always has. He's very touchy-feely. You know, he's not as old as Bernie, but I think it's probably more likely he would get the coronavirus doing all these events. Same rules apply. He could get very sick. It could derail his candidacy. And with him, probably more so than Bernie, if he does get sick, there'll be an attempt to cover it up. So in other words, they'll treat him, but he'll still try to make his appearances, which will be bad for him. You know, as an old guy, both of them, they're very old. You know, doing these kinds of campaigns is already a stress on the body. Look at how Hillary Clinton fell apart physically on the road. She got very sick, as I think. She was either sick temporarily, or she's got some chronic condition she's been hiding for years. So you're looking at two people who could potentially die. Now, if he continues to go on the road even while he's sick, first off, he's going to be sick. He's going to have the coronavirus. He's going to be spreading it to everyone. His entire campaign will get sick. The whole process will fall apart for him, regardless if he continues to try to hide it or he goes into the hospital and everybody's quarantined. It's just going to kill his momentum, depending on when he gets it. We're talking within the next month or two. They could both get it. They're both more susceptible. They're both more likely to die. Now, if Biden dies prior to the end of the primary, well, they got to give it to Bernie, right? DNC may not necessarily go along with that. They may call foul. They may call up a new election. They may bring all the candidates back and say, no, 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 no. They may have to throw Tulsi Gabbard into the mix because she's stubbornly refused to quit. And maybe that's why. Maybe she's seen the writing on the wall like, nah, I can't quit. These guys are going to die. These guys are going to die, and I will technically be the only candidate left in the mix, which would be incredibly interesting, except that the DNC doesn't follow its own rules, and neither did the RNC back when Ron Paul was in. If the same situation had happened with Ron Paul and Mitt Romney had passed away, I have no doubt that the RNC would have said, no, we're not going to go with Ron Paul. We're going to go with somebody else. That's because they really, really don't want certain people running for president. They don't want to alienate the defense industry. For someone like Tulsi Gabbard, the perception is, oh, no, 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 no. She'll alienate the defense industry. The defense industry supports us, so we can't have her. With Ron Paul, it's not just the defense industry. It's the entire, everybody who's scamming the U.S. government and has their fingers in the pie. They don't want a guy like him. He'll be cutting things left and right. And then there's Trump. Now, Trump is the youngest in the field, 73. And quite frankly, out of the three of them, he seems the most vital, right? He seems very youthful for a guy his age, but he's also a bit of a workaholic, and he also doesn't really take care of himself all that well. He doesn't seem to eat very well, doesn't seem to exercise. It's almost it's his force of will that is the strongest. That may help him. And he is the president of the United States. So to some extent, his rallies are so large, he can't help but be isolated from the people who've come out to see him. I mean, it's just too big. He can't shake hands with everybody. And he's used to being a celebrity, so he's kind of used to that little bit of distance between the fans and him. But that doesn't stop him from signing a few autographs. He does. He does that all the time. He certainly did it during his State of the Union speech. Now, maybe he stopped doing it. Maybe he's modified the situation somewhat, but that doesn't change the fact that there's going to be literally thousands and thousands of people at his rallies, and somebody's going to have it. Someone's spreading it. Now, again, the distance is a huge factor. He's going to be way up on his podium. Maybe the Secret Service or some of his staff have special, I don't know, air filters around the podium to spray disinfectant and filter the air. Or that may mitigate some of it. I don't know if that would really work. I don't know if the distance is already a thing. But again, his staff, the Secret Service guys, they're in the crowd. They're keeping people back. They're close. You've got, just people on the ground who have to arrange things, who then have to talk to, staffers higher up and all the way up the chain. It's nearly impossible to cut yourself off completely. So it is possible that Trump gets the virus. That would hurt his chances greatly. I think his chances of surviving are a lot higher than Bernie and Biden, simply because he's younger and he's just got a vitality about him that he ain't gonna die. If he goes down, he's gonna go down swinging. He's a guy like that. But that being said, we have to look at the possibility: what if Trump? That would be an absolute unmitigated disaster. I'm not sure of the rules, but I assume Pence would ascend to the presidency immediately, and he would be the one running. That they would automatically put him on the ballot and move him up, and Pence would have to pick a new VP, which would be, I think it would be the majority in the Senate. I mean, in emergencies, they would just pick someone, but I think he gets the pick. If he ascends, then he gets the pick. Pence is not going to have the same energy that Trump has. I think, however, the Trump fans would be devastated, and out of their devastation, they would vote for Pence. They would stay united behind him, and even if God forbid that happened soon, like in the next month or two, Pence wouldn't be able to draw on that momentum and sadness and most likely lionization of Trump to get reelected, or elected, I should say. Pence himself, I believe he's a lot younger. I think he's at least 10 years younger than Trump, I want to say. I don't know that for a fact. I should have looked up Pence's age ahead of time, but I'm pretty sure he's younger. I'm not sure what that would do to the country, as a whole. People would be, it would be a huge blow mentally, I think, to this country. You can say that people on the other side of the aisle, and maybe you're one of them, would be elated, but celebrating that would be the height of hypocrisy and meanness, and you want to talk about dividing this country. That, more than anything, would completely divide the country. There would be, I just shudder to think of what it would be like. Now, then there's a possibility two of them die. Which two? Well, let's say it's Biden and Bernie, because they're the two oldest. That, again, leaves the Dem field in a crazy mix-up. They'll most likely appoint somebody at the last minute, probably Hillary, I would say. If not, if Hillary was out, and Hillary, keep in mind, could very well be suffering from it too. The next highest candidate out of that field, I guess, was probably Buttigieg, right? I don't know if they'd appoint him. He seems to me like the likely choice. Um, but it would be a bit crazy. And again, Tulsi Gabbard would have a claim because she would be the last candidate in the field who was technically running when the others dropped out. So she would have a technical win, but I sincerely doubt that the DNC would honor that. Maybe they would. I mean, there's a chance that they would just say, you know what, we have no choice and we're going to lose this anyway. Tulsi. They would be wise to nominate Tulsi, by the way, because Tulsi would have, a really good chance at beating Donald Trump in a debate, because Trump would have to treat her as an equal. It would be very hard for Trump to tear down someone like Tulsi, especially when Tulsi was willing to help him early on. It would sound, when Trump goes after someone like Biden, I mean, that's easy pickings for a guy like Trump. Biden's never said anything nice about Trump. I don't think the entire time he's been around. No one, in that respect, he doesn't have any credibility against Trump. Tulsi totally does. She's the only person that stood up and helped Trump during the Syrian crisis. Then you got Trump going out, and let's say Bernie dies, Bernie and Trump. Well, that's going to be Biden versus Pence. That would be very interesting. That would, again, be a very tough election. Pence would not do as well as Trump would in debates, but he would do okay. Biden is so gaffe prone, and it's likely he'd stumble a few times. And quite frankly, Biden is just, he's just not holding it together very well. Even with his promise of going out after he's elected, a lot's riding on his VP pick. Pence, on the other hand, he's a standard politician. He wouldn't be able, Biden wouldn't be able to use all his Trump ammo against Pence. I mean, the best he could say is, "You enabled this man," and he'd just be like, "I'm the vice president. What do you expect me to do here?" I of course I supported the president. You're supposed to support the president. Like those attacks would be, they would be there, but they wouldn't work very well. Then you have the scenario if Biden and Trump go. Now you'd have essentially, would Bernie get it? Well, likely. They kind of have to give it to him, and it would be Bernie versus Pence, which would be a very strange matchup. I think Pence would definitely win because, again, people don't like socialism, and and Pence would have that sort of backing of all the Trump supporters who would see him as, as long as he handled the memorial and the funeral well, which I think he would. I mean, he's a practiced politician. I think he would handle it fine. As long as Pence didn't come out with any extreme, words or policies in the short time that he would need to make it to November, as long as he kind of kept his mouth shut and kind of just parroted Trump and, vowed to continue Trump's policies, that's all he'd have to do, really. He'd coast to an easy election. It would be closer. Bernie might win a few more states because of that. But not many more. Not many more. Bernie can't win the election. And then the craziest scenario would be all three of them die. Now that would be just absolute anarchy and insanity. You'd have Pence versus maybe Buttigieg. Be a really close election, I think. Pence versus Tulsi would be very interesting, and I think Tulsi would have a really good shot at it. I think Tulsi would probably, it'd be hard to say. I mean, you'd have to wonder under what conditions that they would even allow Tulsi to represent them. I don't know. I don't know if the DNC could be that broke that they finally go, well, let's just try her, because I kind of think they would just change the rules. And I mean, they've changed the rules so many times to keep her out of the debates. They've cheated so many times. They cheated Bernie. They're cheating him again, kind of. they cheat anybody to get anybody that they want in the mix. So it's kind of a hard scenario to imagine. But if Tulsi did run against someone like Pence, I think she'd have a real shot at getting it. She's very good in the debates, as long as they don't interrupt her. And I think the only downside would be her economics, and if she supported all the wackiness of the new Green Deal and that kind of thing. I think that would hurt her a lot. And it would be a very tight race. It would be a very tight race. So let's hope everybody stays healthy this election season. I kind of think they have access to better medicine than the rest of us, so I think they're going to be fine.